Welcome to Reputation Revolution. This is the podcast where we help individuals like you to establish your voice in the marketplace, enhance the credibility of that voice, extend the reach of your story and your message, and finally, extract value from your efforts in building a meaningful personal brand that's both recognized and respected. Now, on with the show.
Hey, it's Trevor here, just jumping in for a quick update regarding the Credible Authority Academy. This is my newly launched online membership-based training community where like-minded subject matter leaders and owners of expertise-based businesses can come together to learn, grow, and support one another. After decades of in-the-trenches PR and marketing communications experience, one thing has stood out very clearly to me, and that is many vision-led entrepreneurs, experts, and leaders struggle with getting their head clear on what content to create and where to start with raising their profile. I've created the Credible Authority Academy to help people like you build industry recognition and grow your reputation as the go-to expert or thought leader in your field in a way that's strategic, sustainable, and respectful. If this sounds of interest, please visit credibleauthority.com. All the details are there, and for a limited time only, you can join as a foundation member of the Academy for just $36 a month. That's in Australian dollars, so if you're from overseas, depending on the exchange rate, this could be a pretty cheap deal. And did I mention there are no lock-in contracts? Try it out. If after 1 month your circumstances change or you find the training and community is not for you, you're free to cut ties, no hard feelings on my part. That website again, credibleauthority.com. Now, let's get into today's show. If you're wanting to elevate your professional profile and grow your reputation as a leading, credible voice in your industry, then there's every chance LinkedIn should be a key part of your communications armory. No doubt you're already on the platform, but are you using it well? Are you putting in the requisite effort to gain the benefits in terms of building your brand, positioning yourself as a thought leader, developing relationships with others, and even generating new business leads? Now, whether the answer is yes or no, I think you'll still get heaps and heaps out of today's podcast interview. Now, you may or may not be aware, but LinkedIn has undergone and continues to undergo significant change. It may have been a latecomer to the social media ball in terms of user experience, uptake, and usage, the ugly duckling, as it were, but LinkedIn has certainly transformed into something of a social swan in recent years. My guest today comes to us from Valencia in Spain. His name is Richard van der Blom, and he's an absolute gun when it comes to all things LinkedIn. His content is top-notch, and I recommend you follow him today, this very minute. Well, make sure you listen to the interview first, of course, but then do follow Richard on LinkedIn. I got Richard on the show specifically to chat about his recently released LinkedIn algorithm report, which has gone viral on the platform, and rightly so. The report is comprehensive and took over 1,200 hours of work and with some 10,000 posts analysed in the process. Plus, we cover heaps more, everything LinkedIn. Let's get into the show. Welcome to the show, Richard. I often ask people what they were doing 10 years ago, although I haven't been doing that in recent times. But 10 years ago, did you ever think that the word algorithm would form part of our day-to-day vernacular?
No, to be honest, no. No, because if you talk about LinkedIn in particular, 2012 you're mentioning, I mean, people were just trying to understand what LinkedIn is about. No, I remember that back in 10 years ago, people were saying like, okay, LinkedIn, another social media platform. It started to become big in around 2011, 2012, but people were not talking about the algorithm. They were talking just on like, okay, how can I use it? And we were not even talking about any content challenges at that moment.
Indeed. And with yourself, did you think you'd be an algorithm expert fast forward 10 years?
I don't consider myself as an algorithm expert, I think, because it's impossible to be an expert about an algorithm. The only thing is you can do is on a micro scale, test it yourself and simply do some A/B testing with your post. And practically what we did it from a micro scale and a bigger scale. That's all we did. So we tested with a lot of posts what happens. I don't pretend to be an expert, because if LinkedIn tweaks some buttons, then probably we need to start all over again. But to understand like the big lines, to understand what's working, what's not working, I think that's the most important nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. So I mentioned in the intro, of course, that you've got this algorithm report, and it's very meaty. It's the fourth time you've done it. There's something like 57 pages, and a lot of it's gone viral for very good reasons on LinkedIn. Very comprehensive. Done a lot of work. You've something like 10,000 posts have been looked at, nearly. And 1,200 or 1,400 hours or something put into it. So that's a meaty body of work right there. Just to kick us off, what are some sort of the key findings that you felt that jumped out at you? And there are so many, so I don't expect every one of them, but more from a general sense. And then we'll go into more some more tips based on your findings and your expertise. Then how do we put some of those into action? But from a more general point of view, what are some of the bigger findings? One for me was that it's good to know that 99.9% of people are getting less reach, because I know I've experienced that in the last sort of 12 months. Reach is being screwed down a bit. But what are the ones that jumped out to you?
Well, that's actually a very important one you mentioned, I think, because the majority of us belong to the 99.9%. So for the majority of us, it's less reach. And the reason why is very interesting, because a lot of people that are publishing content on a daily basis, or maybe even 2 or 3 times a day, they adapt their content strategy and they get more reach. And compared to last year, one of the biggest changes was that until about 14 months ago, it was impossible to have 2 posts of the same author in your feed. So you could scroll no matter how long, and LinkedIn would not show you a second post of the same author. They have, for some reason, they've changed that policy. So now, for example, if I scroll and I keep scrolling, it's possible that I see the same author with 3, 4 posts. And some of the posts might even be 5, 6 days old. So this means that the biggest content creators are getting more reach, and for 99.9%, it becomes more hard to get reach. Another thing, which is even more important now compared to, let's say, 2, 3 years ago, is that obviously it's about the content, it's about the quality of your message. No, you need to have a message that resonates with your target audience, that has added value, but the way how you wrap your message, whether it's a video, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's a carousel, whether it's a poll, impacts the reach. So different formats have a different impact on reach. I think people need to realize that. And as a result, we see now that a lot of people, they jump on the carousels, while sometimes their content is not suitable for a carousel. Nevertheless, they go for the format because they have read probably in our story and in many stories that carousels are like the new gold on LinkedIn. So format is very important. And then another thing is that LinkedIn wants us to spend as much time on the platform. So what we have seen is, if you publish a post and you spend some more time just before you publish it or after you publish it and engage with other content creators, engage with other posts, they will give you additional reach. So going to LinkedIn, write your post, publish, and leave the platform will bring less results than if you just stay 10 minutes more on the platform and you engage yourself.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, that one. And you were talking about, with people that are, who are creating content and publishing it often. But I think you said in the report that something like 5.2% of all members are publishing content. That's all. It's an increase of 0.5%. So it's an increase. That's quite significant when it's only 5%. But that's the golden opportunity. Not many people. Most people are lurkers.
No, that's I absolutely agree. And sometimes when I give a training and I give away this number, I say 5%, then the people who are in the training, some of them say, well, then I don't need to do it as well because I belong to the 95%. And no, just look at it a different way. Look at this. It's a huge opportunity for you because you can still stand out if you start publishing content. I'm not talking that you need to jump from non-publishing to once a day. You can do once a week, or I don't know, once every 2 weeks. Because the 5% is included people that do not publish their posts themselves, but just reshare posts. Those are also included in the 5%. So it's even less.
Wow. It's an amazing stat. It's not many at all when you look at it. Given the amount of people who are on the,
it's still 45 million people. It's still 45 million people that produce.
That's
content,
true.
So.
I was trying to calculate it in my head, but I'm glad you came to my rescue on that. And you talk about there's a golden moment about after you have published your post. So, how does LinkedIn treat you when you put up a post? There's a time limit, I believe you've talked about.
Well, obviously there's not a fixed time limit, so it's not that somebody like sets an alarm. But what we have seen is that, and this used to be much longer. It used to be, I think, about 3 years ago. It was like the first 4 hours were very important, and now like everything is going like everything is speeding up. So now what we have seen is that posts that get a huge amount of engagement in the first 90 minutes after publishing, they tend to kick off much faster, and in the end also get better results in terms of reach. And that's also something that's very interesting, Trevor, because we talk a lot about reach in the algorithm report, and I received a lot of comments and private messages where people say, Richard, you talk about reach, but it's all about conversion. And I totally agree with that, but it's very difficult to get conversion if nobody sees your content. So it's like, first you need to get reach. If you have the right content, you will get engagement, which means people are liking, commenting, which means more reach. And eventually that means more conversion. So reach for me equals more engagement, equals more conversion if you know what to post. You know, that's a very important thing, because especially in the last 6 months, Trevor, and I don't know if you have noticed the same, I see a lot of people writing about how to tell a story on LinkedIn, how to format your post, how to create a carousel. So we're talking more about how to wrap the content, while the real challenge is, what are you going to say?
Yeah. And that's the hardest part. I mean, and that opens up a whole can of worms, of course. We can discuss that later, but you know, what are you going to say, and how's that going to move your brand forward? In terms of the that 90 minutes that you've found, is it true that the first 90 minutes makes a difference? So if you've got a really important post, you might want to get some friendlies to just give you a bit of a kick along. If it's, you don't do that all the time, and I'm not talking engagement pods, but there's that first 90 minutes. So your timing of it is important when it goes out, potentially, when people are actually on it and can see it. Isn't it again a bit later in a day, or within 24 hours it gets a second kick, or is it? Or am I thinking about it goes first 90 minutes is to a smaller group, and then it gets kicked off into something larger for up until 24 hours?
I think it's the last one. What we have seen is that LinkedIn is going to test your posts with a smaller audience in the beginning. It's a percentage of your connections. For those who have creator mode enabled, followers are also included. That's very important, because on average, followers are more engaging than connections. And that seems like, for some people, very strange to hear, but it's true, because you might have been connected with people you've met in the past, previous work relations, previous buddies you met at study, and you're connected because something in the past, but you're not necessarily connected because they like your content. But followers, especially the ones who recently started to follow you, they follow you because they want to see your content. So imagine LinkedIn showing your content, your post, to 100 connections or 100 followers. I guarantee you that from the 100 followers, you get far more engagement. So only if you have creator mode enabled, LinkedIn directly starts to show your posts also to followers. So that's, for me, a no-brainer why you should have creator mode on. And then they show it to a small percentage. It's something between 4-8 for some of us, maybe 10%. And based on their engagement, LinkedIn is going to show the post to more people inside your network and outside, second, third degree. So lack of engagement from your inner circle seriously harms the end result of your post. Which means, like you said, more or less there are three ways how you can support your own reach. First of all, if you have a very important announcement, it might be wise to send some messages out to people that say okay, I just published that. It would be awesome if you do a comment. Personally, I don't do that much, but it's possible. And again, I'm very against any automation pod, because it's killing the trust on the platform. But
Agreed.
if I have a really important message, I might reach out to 10 of my colleagues and say, hey, if you would like to post a comment, it would really help. Second, it's you need to convince people that they ring your bell, because all the people that have rung the bell on your profile, they also get an instant notification, and they might not be included in the first batch of LinkedIn, but because they rang the bell, they get your message. So I really saw that since I have this call to action at the bottom of every post where I say, hey, if you want to see more of these insights, follow my personal hashtag, ring the bell, and I've really seen the impact on the kickstart of my posts.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is the bell only for if you've got creator mode turned on, or is it for everyone?
No, it's for everyone. It's visible on the profiles of connections, and it's visible on the profile of the ones you follow. So even if you have, for example, this great prospect or this great content creator, and you're not yet connected, and you do not want to send an invite, or you don't dare to send an invite, just hit follow, and then the bell appears, and then you can literally subscribe to every post this person is creating and publishing.
Yeah. So after doing the report, and I guess you've been doing it for 4 years, so you've noticed incremental changes, and you've probably got new things popping up and old things that aren't as relevant. But what was the one thing that took your breath away and you said, I didn't see that coming at all?
This year, you mean, compared to the other years?
Correct. Yes, this year.
It's one of the smallest. Well, it's not one of the small. A really a detail in this year's report, which took a lot of people by surprise, is that if you engage with a post, it's actually the first action only that has an impact. And I myself always, if I see an interesting post, I always think am I going to like it and leave it, or am I going to comment on it because I want to add some value, or because I think this post deserves some more engagement? I never did both, but apparently a lot of people, they go liking first, commenting second. So this means if you like first, that's the impact that it has on the algorithm, and your comment will have no impact on the algorithm. And since we all know that a like has much less impact in terms of growth, additional reach, a lot of people are like, okay, I need to change my habits. I need to comment first now before I like, because I just go out, and then start to think, what am I going to write? So that's a small thing that a lot of people sent me messages we didn't know, and we need to change our habits.
And the call to action then is do a comment first.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And I don't ask explicitly for comments. I might very incidentally, but what I do normally, I just ask questions at the end. I just okay, these are 6 trends. Do you have a 7th trend to add? What do you think is the most important trend? Do you recognize these trends? And then people, instead of going they want to give their opinion, so they turn to the comments.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Actually, asking that question, and hopefully it engages people to do so. And what about in terms of frequency? Is more better, less is better, once a week? There's probably no golden rules, but I've always sort of had a once a day is probably a maximum, once every 24 hours. But I see some people with big followings who are really chucking a lot of stuff out there.
Well, this is a very important point, because I have actually seen post as a reaction on our algorithm research where they said, okay, let's debunk the myth that you cannot publish more than once a day. And it's apples and oranges, because I always said, I've even seen it in my own reach, if I would create 3 high quality posts a day and I would publish them, my total reach of the day obviously would be higher than if I just publish one post. It's normally,
Yep.
or it's completely normal. But what we were talking about in the algorithm report is that the average reach per post goes down if you post multiple times a day, because LinkedIn, like, just they don't have the time to like show the post to your entire network and there is your second post and there is your third post. So your reach is more scattered, but in total, obviously, if you post 3-4 times a day, the total reach of all the posts combined at the end of the day will be higher than if you publish once a day. I don't like to say anything about frequency, and normally I don't in my trainings, because I always go like, you need to have quality content. If I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to create a post simply because I need to post once a day. So I think last year I published 270 posts. So that's about 5 a week. So it's quality first. If you can keep up with one post a day, that's already like massive. It's awesome. Hey, if you have 10 quality posts that you want to share a week, go ahead, because again, your total reach will be higher. But we were talking about the average reach that will
Yep.
decline if you publish more than once a day.
Yep. Yep. And what's the thing about doing an edit? Like if you I think I've seen you talk about if you go in and do an edit straight away, you really get penalized.
Yeah, it depends on what your definition is of really get penalized, because it's about, I think, I don't recall the exact number, it's about 10-15%, but
Okay.
it's of your first batch. Okay, so it's if you normally have 6 to 8, let's say you have 1,000 connections, you publish, LinkedIn shows it to 80 people, 8%. Then now if you edit your post, LinkedIn will show it to 80 minus 15%, so to 70 people. But
Right.
we're still talking about the first batch. And if those
Yep.
70 are going to engage like crazy, your reach could be even higher than if you haven't
Right.
edited. But
But if you left it later, then it's more out there in the wild and it probably won't have as an effect. So it's really
exactly,
because it's at the starting point, not
exactly,
because you're not because you're editing it. It's when you edit.
exactly. And people also doubt that this is true, but we have seen it with multiple people in our group of the people that we researched. And I also saw that a lot of people said like, hey, this happened to me. I edited my post and it went like numb. For me, it's just a response of LinkedIn to behavior of some of the members that want to like gamify the algorithm, because you probably know that a lot of people in the past, they would create a post where they really would like to have an external link to their website, and then they would create a post without link, publish it, go to the 3 dots, edit the post, put in the link, and then save it again, because LinkedIn like analyzes your post once you published it. But if you make additions, edits, they don't do they don't have a new look on your post, so they don't see that you have added a link. So that's, for me, it's just like a response from LinkedIn to some of the behavior of people trying to put in an external link, but just by editing their post.
Well, now you've used the golden words external link. What's your latest thinking on whether how much it penalises you? So it clearly does penalise, but it's kind of how much. I mean, it's probably more so with a Facebook. But what's
I
your
think
take on that?
I think it's one of the biggest issues for content creators and also for a lot of marketing and com departments, how to treat links. And there is much more research than ours, and all the independent research shows that LinkedIn posts with external links are getting less reach. Now the real question is that because of the algorithm, or is that because people just don't want to click on links? Because, hey, I'm spending my time on LinkedIn, I don't want to go to your website, so I see a link and I just skip the link. LinkedIn obviously says it's the latter reason. LinkedIn says it's not we are penalizing, but people want to spend time on LinkedIn. They do not feel comfortable to go out. interesting enough is that if you click on a link now in LinkedIn, they have a second page coming up, a white page saying, you are leaving the platform. Are you sure you want to go to the link? So for me, obviously, that's just another trick from LinkedIn to make people aware, like, hey, don't leave the platform, go back to LinkedIn because you were on LinkedIn scrolling, you don't want to go to the website. So for me, it's a combination. I think it's one, that the algorithm does really not favor external links, because basically the more time we spend in an average session on LinkedIn, the bigger is the marketing value for LinkedIn, also for advertisements. Second, I also think that people, like if I'm scrolling to the feed of my network, to my peers, my influencers, I do not click on links myself. I do not want to go to their website. I just want to see what people are posting on LinkedIn. So I think it's a combination of both reasons.
So with your original, the original one I saw, you may have had a couple, but I think the original promotion for the algorithm report and came up, and I wanted to, there was no, I don't think there was a link to it. I think the way I got it was I clicked onto the, because it's done as a document, a PDF document. I clicked on that and then I could download and read it further. Is that why you didn't put a link? Or am I reading too much into that?
No, because the number of people that reach out to me via direct message say, hey, why don't you put it on the website and gate it? And you get so many email subscribers. You get like literally thousands of email subscribers because everybody wants to have the algorithm report. I'm really against gated content. So that's the first reason. I do not like, if something is free, it should be really free. So free for me is not in exchange for your email details. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, for us, the best way to get as much eyes as possible on the research is just putting it on LinkedIn. People don't need to go to an external site. They're there. They can click. They can download, just the way you did it. The only thing we learned ourselves this year is that providing people with a 57-page document is maybe not the best way to introduce people to the algorithm. And one of my one of the content creators I value a lot, Sam Brown. I don't know if you heard him. He's from New Zealand. Probably you've heard of him. He reached out to me just one day after he saw it. And he said, wow, this is great. I want to do a carousel with 15 tips. Is that okay with you? I will mention you. You will be in the slide. Say, yeah, go ahead, because that's what we said. You can reuse it as long as you mention. And mind you, our report was out 48 hours and we were on 400,000 views after 2 days, which is not bad. And he published his carousel post, and within 8 hours he reached 500,000 views within 8 hours. And his end post got, I don't remember because I haven't asked recently, but his end post, I know for sure that after 3 days he had more than 3 million views just on that. And he grew his network 20,000 followers in 48 hours just because of the carousel post. So that's a big lesson for us. Like, people want to have it snackable. They want to have presented it light and do not want necessarily the 57-page document. So that's something that we might want to do next year if we're going to redo it. And then we're going to say, like, okay, here is a carousel post. These are the 15 main takeaways. And then maybe a week later or 2 weeks later, we will produce the total report.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one that Sam did. So yes, I do recall that. And you've done quite a few sort of carousels since as well, and short, sharp bursts. And
I did two teasers. I did 2 teasers up front, which performed very well. One of them performed even better than the post itself. And I did one top 15 takeaways from the algorithm just 1 week after we launched it. But basically, because I saw the performance of Sam's carousel, and I thought, like, okay, just highlight some other things that we want to highlight, but in a carousel format. And it went 2 times the reach of the original document. So less content, more reach. It's unbelievable, but true.
Just shows that the little sound bites and the little snippets that lead back to the bigger meal. That's a strategy worth looking at across any owned media product, I suppose. So let's just roll into how, some tips about how people can get the most out of LinkedIn based on what you've been seeing in your research, and sort of more tactical. So you're just recapping a couple of things. You believe it's better to be on creator mode. That's a number one thing for you.
If you publish at least twice a week yourself, if not, no, but you need to have a minimal frequency of 2 posts a week. And I'm not talking about reposts or reshares, but own content. Yeah, then I believe you will absolutely benefit from it.
And potentially, if your quality is there, publishing probably more than twice a week is probably the go anyway, if you really want to nail it.
If you want to make an impact, it's absolutely, I would go like ideal frequency 3-4 times a week. That's something you should aim at.
Yep. So going into creator mode for that. The other one is when you publish, to allow 10 minutes to stick around and start commenting on other people's stuff. So, you might even have some of those, I guess, posts that you've been looking at during the day, and for the next day you sort of bookmark them and you can go straight to them and have your comments all ready and that sort of stuff. So you could be quite purposeful about that, I'd imagine, as well.
Yeah, so what I do normally in the morning, I look at my notifications. So they're always, because I also rank some belts on profiles. I don't want to miss that content. So I just look at your notifications, see what people have been publishing. And I also have a list of bookmarked profiles, about 20, where I have a direct link to their profile, but to their status activity. So if I click on the link, I go directly to the latest post and I just comment. And that's absolutely gold, because you can see, especially if you start engaging with people in your industry or people that have valuable posts also for your target audience, and you start to engage with those posts, you will see a lot of benefits from people coming from the feed to your profile, people responding to your own comment. So that's also a very good tactic.
Very good tactic, that one. That is good, actually, to have that, just that little bit more buttoned down in terms of to save your time doing it. Otherwise, you could go into the doom scrolling. And,
you don't want to lose precious time by scrolling and looking and eventually turning up commenting on posts that actually are not that relevant, just for the sake of commenting,
Yeah, and when we're talking comments, we're talking thoughtful comments, not great post.
No, because that's also an interesting thing. We've seen that comments that have at least 12 words perform much better than comments that go like, thanks, great read, great article, thanks for sharing. That's not commenting.
Yeah. And so in terms of ideal video length, I think you said something between 20 and 60 seconds in a square format. What's your take on video? Because 2 years ago, even a year ago, but certainly 2 or 3 years ago, it was video, and LinkedIn was really giving video creators a lot more juice.
Well, that was because they launched in, I think it was 2018. They launched video advertising. So they started to give the opportunity to company pages to do video advertising. Once you start to do that, you need to convince people that video content is performing well, because otherwise people are not going to pay for video advertisement. So what they did, they tweaked the algorithm. Videos were the new gold. So everybody sees videos, and then it becomes more logical for you to do a promoted video. So it's really like, from a business point of view, it's really a very logical step from LinkedIn why they did it. So one of the things I thought that was going to happen 3 years ago was poll advertisement, because they tweaked polls and our feed was like flooded with polls. And I thought, okay, next step, what we're going to see is advertisement polls, which never came, luckily. But that was the reason why we saw a lot of video. Now, in terms of reach, videos perform less than, let's say, 2 years ago. But again, it's not about reach, it's about conversion. And I think video is an excellent way to engage even on a stronger base with people than just a written post. Because if people see you speak, if people can hear you, it creates more trust. Once again, if you say the right things, no? So I myself, last year, I did almost no videos. I shared some recordings if I was like speaking on events. And in December, I recorded with one of the guys that is working in our hub. He's a video expert. He came to Valencia and we recorded like 24 videos that now I'm going to publish one video a week. So I have my video content created for the next 6 months because I think it's a very engaging way. People see you, you build trust. So yeah, I think video content should be part of your content strategy.
I noted that you're on the couch. Is that the one where you're on the couch?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
I'm saying that I do a lot of written posts, but really should be getting out there doing more videos.
That's the one.
So eating your own dog food, as we call that in Australia, which is good.
Yeah.
So in terms of video, do you think there's so many different formats now? I mean, portrait has really taken off because of Instagram and obviously TikTok. But square format you think's better than a landscape?
Our research shows, and it's basically because of screen size. So vertical, square, you get more screen size, especially if people are looking on mobile. They have a bigger screen. That's what the research shows. Funny enough, my couch talks are horizontal, so it's exactly the opposite of what our research shows. And we don't have subtitles in there, which again, the research shows you need to be captioned. So actually we did everything wrong, not on purpose, but just because we hadn't given it a thought at that moment. But the research is 20 to 60 seconds. You can go up to 2 minutes, but never more than 2 minutes because people lose interest. It's best to caption them because still a lot of people are in an environment where they don't have audio. And then square format because basically of the screen size. Those are the three main tips.
And now we've got LinkedIn, of course, is doing automatic captions as well.
Yeah, I use them. Them, but people need to click on the double C symbol at the bottom. Otherwise, I don't see the captions. I didn't know that. I thought that if I enable captions from LinkedIn, which I did, then they will be automatically shown, which is not the case. People need to click on the CC symbol. Yeah. And I launched a second video on Monday. And I think I got 3-4 messages people that say you should have captioned it. And I say it's there. You just need to click on CC. But that's one click too many for them.
Yeah, that's. I know when I've put them up and it comes up automatically for me, which is obviously I'm the creator, but then I've got captions on captions, so that freaked me out for a while.
Yeah.
Double caption was a bit hard.
I've heard that. No, the process, also the process of adding the LinkedIn caption is very strange because you upload your video, there is a box that you need to tick that is almost invisible. If you don't tick it, you're already lost. You lost the ability for caption. So I think from a usability point of view, they can still improve the process. But hey, I think...
it's certainly a step anyway. And in terms of, I know you use carousels or you've been using them particularly around the report. Carousels being documents and PDFs. Square, I think, can you do more than square? Or most people I see do them square.
I have verticals.
What do you, you like them, of course, but again, your content's got to be good, just because the format works or is seen to work, if it's not really good content and doesn't tell a story, then it probably... don't use them for the heck of it is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, there are two reasons why they work great. One is because of an algorithm thing. Second is because the way how people like to consume content. So first thing, one of my carousels that I published, I think it was the top 15 tips on the algorithm research that I published 1 week after. I looked after 4 hours and I had an engagement number of 99.6%. The average engagement on LinkedIn is around 1%. I had an engagement number of 99.6%. Wow. And the reason was that if you put up a carousel, let's say we have 10 slides, and you have a visitor and he clicks to go to the second, third, fourth slide. So he clicked 3 times. Then one visitor brings you 3 engagements. So that's 300% engagement because LinkedIn adds them up. So if every click on an arrow to go to the next slide means an engagement, it has a positive impact on the algorithm. That's the only reason why carousels are performing as a format better than others, because people click on your slide to go to the next one, which is a positive signal to the algorithm. That was also the reason why polls were very favored in the algorithm, because you see a poll, you have three options, you click on the answer. So that means that every visitor who see the polls and who clicked to contribute his answer had a positive engagement.
Yeah.
So that's the first reason why carousels perform very well. Secondly, compared to, for example, newsletters or long blogs, people spend on average like 30 to 40 seconds on your post, not more. So they don't have the time to read your newsletter of, let's say, I don't know, 2,000 words. So if you provide your content in a bulletproof way with some slides, and also strengthened by some cool visuals, then it's easy for people to consume. They just click to 6 slides and they have the insight. They don't need to read a post. So it's also the way how we have like favored the way to consume content.
Yep. So, and what you're talking about is dwell time. People are clicking on, they're engaging, they're staying on, and that's telling the algorithm people are interested in that. That kicks you up in all sorts of manners. So it certainly works, and I think from an information or a communication tool, it's when it's done sparingly, with not a lot of words, then don't write 5 paragraphs on it, but when it's done sparingly and designed well, it's a nice read. It's easy to do on mobile as well as on. It's easy to digest on desktop as well. So certainly carousels. And you mentioned newsletters. Newsletters were the hot thing, and now they're kind of not. What's your take on newsletters? I love the concept. I think there's certainly room for them, but are they tanking like articles tank?
When I got the feature first, I was one of the, at least in Holland, I was one of the first people who had it. I think I was among the first 100 LinkedIn members from Holland that had access to the newsletter. So they were very limited. They were in beta. So I tried it, and I had 3 articles in a newsletter in 1 month, and I was already on 15,000 subscribers. And mind you, I'm talking about 2 years ago. So I didn't have 80,000 followers. I had 15,000 connections, but with 3 articles, I already reached 15,000 subscribers, and I started from scratch because it was new. The content was good, and last year LinkedIn gave access to the newsletter to all people who enable creator mode, which means much more content, which means also much more shitty content, which means also much more pushy content. We have now, for example, if you talk about LinkedIn tips, we have over 4,000 LinkedIn newsletters that you can follow for LinkedIn tips. So I guess the abundancy of content and also a lower quality, because, and I do not want to talk down people, but writing a newsletter is a different skill than just writing a post. And by giving access to the newsletter to all people who have enabled creator mode, we have seen that some of the newsletters, they're not very interesting. So if people get disappointed by following 2 or 3 newsletters, I think they stop following newsletters. And we have seen in the numbers that engagement on newsletters is compared to last year, it's like it went down like with an avalanche. And I haven't written a newsletter since February last year, so almost a year. So my newsletter is like almost dead. And the reason why is because I get much more engagement and much more reach in my feed now, on my posts, on my carousel posts, than on my newsletter.
Yeah.
So my conclusion would be that the concept of a newsletter where you have people that can subscribe and they will notify them, you can have multiple hyperlinks, external links, videos. So it's a rich media document. So the potential is there. I just think the way how we as a community have used it has made it more difficult to stand out. So that's something that someone who's listening to this podcast needs to think, hey, if you want to start a newsletter now, create your niche and make sure it's like high quality content, because otherwise it will not be a big success.
Maybe, and I've seen a few people do it, doing it as a digest of what you've done for the month.
Yep.
And so you've already done the work. It's really just about you're pulling it together, and you can put links in it and videos and all that sort of stuff. So if you put a few videos up on on LinkedIn, you can put those videos up on the thing. So it's just an extra kick, but you've already done the work. So I don't mind that as a concept.
I think there are two things about newsletters. First, if you want to be seen as a thought leader, a newsletter could be a really cool channel to have. And go for like once a month and exactly what you do, and show your community what have you been up to in the last month, what have you done, give them some insight. Once a month should be a frequency you can maintain. And
Yep.
second, for a company to have a newsletter, because companies were also given the ability to write a newsletter, that's also a channel that I think many companies could really use to engage more with their community.
I agree. And Michelle J. Raymond, who I think you probably know, she'd be agreeing with you on that score as well.
Oh yeah, she
So,
is. She is. Yeah.
so the other part is I just want to talk about building a thought leader brand, because it's one thing to build a personal brand and that sort of stuff, but to build a thought leader brand and position yourself above just being an expert and, you know, sparking conversation and taking things a bit broader. And sometimes people don't know what they don't know. So that thought leadership is a different play, I think, to just expertise. There's no right or wrong. Just depends on what you're trying to do. But what are some of the things that you think the more heavyweight things that people can do for thought leadership, rather than just get likes and views and they're, playing that and building the profile, but more about influence, sort of some more best practices around content and stuff like that. Have you got sort of views on that? Because, you've built, you've got a profile now, you're seen as a thought leader in the space, you're changing the way people think about, LinkedIn.
If we talk about thought leadership and content, I would suggest all people that want to be seen as a thought leader to have 4 pillars in their content strategy. So one, obviously, I call thought leadership, which means you need to have the content that people think, that makes people feel about their challenges, their needs, and how they can overcome them. So that's like, an example is the algorithm report, but an example is I think 60% of my content is aimed at making people think differently on how to use LinkedIn to become more successfully. So that's the first pillar. Second pillar is about events. So if you're going to speak somewhere, if you're quoted in a magazine, all the things that build your brand as a trusted advisor, you create a post. Like if I'm booked as a keynote speaker, I make a post about being booked. If I'm at the venue during the event, I create a post. Like today, I'm in Copenhagen on the LinkedIn Summit Denmark, so people can get an image of where you are and your whereabouts. Third one is personal stories, and I'm not necessarily talking about selfies, but people need to see you now and then in your content. People need to resonate also with you as a person, because if you're this distanced leader, thought leader, then you will never become the trusted advisor if you don't show up yourself in your post. So that's why I sometimes have a picture of myself. That's why I actually started also with the videos on the couch, so people can really see me. And the fourth pillar is third-party content. So I'm following, for example, a lot of things that talk about thought leadership, virtual selling, social selling. And whenever I see an interesting article, not written by me, not written by anyone in my company, I really publish the article. I give my thoughts about the article, but I use valuable content that it's about the industry, it's about trends, so people start to follow me. Also to get to stay up to date on what's happening in terms of leadership, social selling, virtual selling. So those 4 pillars, I think it's a must to include them in your content strategy.
So I was going to ask you about content curation, because I'm a massive believer in that, being a sort of a early days of Twitter where we did a lot of that, and I've done it all my life on LinkedIn, and it doesn't go well from the algorithm's point of view. It doesn't, a lot of those posts don't do well, but you do have a chance to put a comment. You're about being part of someone else's community. You're sharing other people's ideas, so you're not just making it about you. I think it says it's about generosity of spirit, and I think there's a need for it, even though it might harm you a little bit in terms of it won't get the big reach that some of your big meaty things do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. and from a marketing perspective, you talk about a marketing funnel where people are unaware and then they go to awareness and then they go to consideration and then they go where eventually you hope that they become a client. In order to reach the people in the highest two layers of the funnel, people that are unaware or are going to the awareness phase, if you only publish content that comes from your own company, people that are now being served by your competitor or have a relationship with a competitor, they're not going to follow you because you only talk about your own company. Everything is branded from your own company. But if you start to sharing also third-party content, you become really more a thought leader. So also clients from your competitors are going to follow you because you like inform them what's happening in the industry. And then it becomes interesting because if you combine that then with your thought leadership content, your personal content, then it's where you start creating a brand also for people that are now like in business with your competitor or don't think they have any problems. So third-party content has a big impact on your brand as well.
Yeah, terrific. 100% agree. Richard, this has been very illuminating. Learning that, most of our listeners who are on LinkedIn, I guarantee it. And, so much to continue to learn. You've helped us a lot today. What's the best way for people to find you? And also, I do recommend that you grab this report, this algorithm report, because it is meaty. And just follow Richard and ring his bell. Ring his bell, follow, because he's putting tips out all the time. So over to you. Where's the best place for people to catch up with you?
No, I think you all said it. I think people can go to LinkedIn, Richard van der Blom. Like you said, ring the bell, follow me. In my featured section, which is very dominant on my profile, I think the first document is the algorithm research. Click on it, make it screen wide. You can download it for free, so no strings attached. If you have any questions, they can send me a DM. So LinkedIn is really the best place to interact with me.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Fantastic to chat and to meet in person after following you so long on LinkedIn. So happy New Year and keep punching on those algorithms.
My pleasure, Trevor. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
The reputation economy is here. The world today needs more genuine, credible experts and leaders to stand up and share their experience, their wisdom, their stories and ideas. Are you in?